Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the weekly Parsha class. As usual, I'm going to switch it up and not speak about the Parsha, but speak about the calendar. Um, Last month when I spoke about it was Tevet. We talked about the fast of the 10th day of Tevet. There are something called minor holidays, and there are some things called, I guess, regular holidays or festivals. The festivals, Sukkot, Passover, Shavuot, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and then the minor festivals, they're called minor because they're not officially in the Torah, but rather they're rabbinic holidays. And this is another one of those, and it's Tu B'Shvat. Tu B'Shvat, the 15th day of Shvat, which begins tomorrow night and goes into Thursday, the 15th of Shvat, and it's the holiday of the trees or the birthday of the trees. A bit of a background, the birthday of the trees is something that I didn't really understand growing up in upstate New York because there were no trees during the holiday that we were celebrating the birthday of the trees. Tu B'Shvat for me should have been in June or July, not in late January, excuse me, or early February. However, as I got older and began to understand the sources of Tu B'Shvat, it was not meant for me growing up in upstate New York, but rather it was meant for me to look towards the state of Israel, the country of Israel, the people of Israel, and realize that it is there that we were celebrating the 15th day of Shvat, Tu B'Shvat, and the Festival of the Trees. And so I want to go over a few sources about how we get to this thing called the Festival of the Trees, what they did then, and what we do now, and how a beautiful holiday it is. Number one, where is the source of Tu B'Shvat? It actually is in the Mishnah. It's in the rabbinic teachings that comes from Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, the new year. I'm going to read this. It's one of the most famous Mishnahs that we have. Excuse me. We learn there are 4 days in the year that serve as the new year. 4 Rosh Hashanahs, not just the one that everybody comes to the synagogue in September. And each of them, the rabbis say, have a different purpose. On the first of Nisan is the new year for the kings, the Melachim. The first of Nisan is 14 days before Passover. That one is not necessarily scheduled or not necessarily celebrated as much today. What does that mean? It is from this date that the year of a king's rule are counted. So in the Torah, when you see in the 3rd year of this king or the 10th year of David or Solomon, that is when they're speaking about from the first of Nisan. That's a Rosh Hashanah. It's a new year. And for the first of Nisan is also the new year for the order of the festivals, as it determines which is considered first festival of the year and which the last. So you have the festivals because in Nisan it's also when Pesach is. According to the Torah, that is the first month, not according to the calendar that we have now. We believe that Tishrei, Rosh Hashanah, is the first month, but no, that is not. It's actually Nisan because it's the festival of Passover when the Jews got their freedom when they were basically born. On the first of Elul is a new year for animal tithes. Again, this is not necessarily one that we celebrate today, but we learn that, give me one second. On the first day of Shvat, according to Beit Shammai, is the new year for the tree, but Beit Hillel says on the 15th. And we know that most of the halachot, most of Jewish law is according to not Shammai, but according to Hillel. And so today we have a celebration of the Festival of the Trees on the 15th day of Shvat. That's when, back in the day, and even now, young people go out in the fields, young people go out in the fields, and they begin to plant. You know, Tu B'Shvat took on a new meaning post-October 7th when I was in Israel in May with the Jewish National Fund USA Mission and Rabbis for Israel. We volunteered 2 ways in the field. Number one, we picked tomatoes for a couple of hours. And number two, we went to a village in the south near Gaza called Sohar. And there we literally took these planks of sod and we put them in the ground, and it literally went from a desert into a field. It was Tu B'Shvat. It was the enactment of what our rabbis thought of when we can make the desert bloom. And so I want to take you through a few Tu B'Shvat in a couple of different ways. The first I want to take you on is Rashi. Rashi says, why is Tu B'Shvat at this moment? Why in Shvat? Why not in Nisan? Why don't we have Tu B'Shvat, the spring festival, when the trees are already bloomed? And Rashi says, it makes sense in California, since most of the year's rains have fallen. As most of the rainy days, which is the time of the primary rain season, have already passed, such that the sap has risen in the trees, and from then on the fruits emerge. So in fact, Tu B'Shvat is not about when you plant the tree, but rather it's about when the fruits emerge from the tree. The idea of rain takes on again an added significance both in the land of Israel, of course, out here in Southern California, that sort of coming up when the rainy season's going to be ending. We pray that the rain will continue to fall because we know that that will impact what the harvest will look like, what the trees will look like. And so I want to go further on into Jewish history, into Kabbalah, into the mystical rituals of Tu B'Shvat. And I want to read from the Pre-Eitz Hadar, a Kabbalistic commentary. It is a custom for the faithful to eat many fruits on this day. What are the rituals besides planting the tree? It's actually to eat the fruits of the tree and to celebrate them with words of praise, just as I have instructed. Even though this custom is not mentioned in the Lurianic writings, Rabbi Isaac Luria, who is the creator of Kabbalah, it is nevertheless a wondrous tikkun on both exoteric and esoteric levels. He says in the Palestinian Talmud, that's the Jerusalem Talmud, Asara Yuchasin, the following says, listen, humble ones, and rejoice. Rav Chizkiyahu ben Kohen, Rav Kohen said in the name of Rav, in the future, a person will have to account for everything his eyes saw and he did not eat. We're going to be accountable for what we did not eat. And so therefore we should take part with praise and eat from literally the fruits of the trees that God has given us. In a few moments, I'm going to go through a Tu B'Shvat Seder and what a Tu B'Shvat Seder looks like today. Because you eat the different types, you don't just eat the fruits that you like, you eat things with pits, with seeds, and all different types of characteristics that represent what these fruits are. I want to bring to you another commentary, Mishnat Eretz Yisrael. It's a commentary on the Mishnah about the land of Israel. When it says that should Tu B'Shvat be on the 15th or should the Festival of Trees be on the 1st? The 15th day of Shvat, he says, was not known as a day of any festive significance. There was nothing happening on that day. And its appearance on the list of New Year's in the Mishnah does not indicate its festive or special status on the Jewish calendar. There really is nothing special in history that happened on this 15th of Shvat. So why? It says it only appears in the Mishnah as a technical date for the demarcation of tithes. A fruit that has formed before the 15th of Shvat is considered to belong to the previous year. So they said that they needed an actual date for Tu B'Shvat because, as I just said, Tu B'Shvat is not about planting the tree, but it's about tithing the fruits of the trees. It's strange to be speaking in the diaspora in North America about tithing. Tithing specifically of fruit, because we don't do that in America. We don't do that outside the land of Israel. But there are specific laws in the land of Israel where you still tithe. I remember in my aunt's house in Israel, they have a beautiful lemon tree, and they picked off the lemon tree, and it was the first fruits of the tree, and they wrapped it up, and they said a special blessing, a blessing that I never heard before because I don't live in Israel. When I go out and pick a tree from my lemon tree, there's no blessing that is said because we are not required outside of the land of Israel to tithe, to give our first fruits to the temple, to God. And so the rabbis needed a date, the 15th of Shvat, to understand that if it's the 16th of Shvat, meaning if I pick a lemon tree today in Israel, it's going to belong to this year. But if I pick a lemon on Friday, which this year is the 16th of Shvat, it'll belong to next year's tithes. And so when you talk about tithing, this is what it's about. It says the first fruits may not be brought from produce of the present harvest for produce of the previous harvest. One should not bring produce that budded before the 15th as first fruits of produce that budded after the 15th. It's simply tax day. When it gets to January 1st, we know that fiscal year is through December 31st, and the new fiscal year is January 1st. It's just a demarcation in time. It has no historical significance in the actual calendar. And finally, Tu B'Shvat as a metaphor. We should contemplate about the idea of Tu B'Shvat. Why do we not say the supplicational prayers? Every single day there's prayers called Tachanun, except if there's special occasions such as Hallel or families in mourning or the family in celebration. We do not say it. But why do we not say the prayers there? What's so special of Tu B'Shvat? We thought it's just a regular holiday. Is not its being the new year of trees something natural? It's not something special. It's just natural. Every year the trees are planted, the trees are born, the fruits come onto the trees. The answer, the most of the year's rains have fallen, as we just heard from Rashi, such that the sap has risen in the trees, right? The trees are sort of, I remember having a pine tree in my house growing up, and when the sap would be on, it would be sort of sticky. And from then on, the fruits emerge. If so, what is the idea of not saying the supplicational prayers on it? For it has no holiness and no commandment. No miracle happened. We don't celebrate Sukkot in the desert or liberation of Egypt. No miracle happened on it, nor anything else that relates to the Jewish people. So, I want to go through what a Tu B'Shvat Seder is. And there's all different types of Tu B'Shvat Seders because it is sort of a new mystical ritual. But there's a beautiful Seder called Seeds of Hope, and it goes like this. After the temple was destroyed, the Jews were exiled from Israel. As we know, we no longer gave these tithings that we just talked about. At the same time, even though we were exiled, the Jews continued to celebrate Tu B'Shvat. How did they do it if they couldn't give their tithes? They ate from the 7 grains, the Shivat Haminim, the 7 grains and fruits that are biblically associated with the land of Israel. What are they? Wheat, barley, grapes, figs, pomegranates, olives, and dates. In 16th century Tzfat, in northern Israel, Rabbi Isaac Luria, a mystic, seeded a transformation of Tu B'Shvat, and he developed a Seder just like Passover, or just like the Rosh Hashanah Seder that we are familiar with, using wine and the fruits of the land of Israel. What did we do for the wine? It's such a beautiful thing. First, they begin with white grape juice. And then the second cup, they mix white and just a little red. And then the third cup, it's half and half. And the last cup is red. And it represents what? The first of white wine is like a farmer looking at the barren field in winter. It says, we will soon drink the first 4 cups of grape juice or wine. The cup is filled with white grape juice to symbolize winter time. We raise this cup to the farmer who sees potential abundance emerging from the stark field and decides to plant. Right? When you look at a barren field, you can't even imagine that this field will one day bloom. And yet, we know that with the hard work of actual farmers, they do it. When you drive down to the desert, specifically, I remember Kibbutz Keturah on the way to Eilat. It's a barren desert, and then all of a sudden you see thousands and thousands of palm trees filled with juicy dates. That is who we are as a Jewish people. We take a barren field and we plant, and the sap grows, and the fruits grow, and we enjoy that. The Jewish people are blessed with abundant sources of hope. That's what Tu B'Shvat is about. It's about the hope that we will plant again. That was Herzl's hope in 1898 when he said in 50 years there will be a Jewish state. That's why he said, Im tirtzu ein zo agada. If you will it, it is no dream. That's the first cup of grape juice. But the first plate of fruit is fruits with 1 large pit or seed. What is that? A date, an olive, a peach, a plum, or an avocado. In this beautiful Seder, I read, we celebrate the sweet accomplishments of the giants and dreamers of the Jewish people. We say the blessing, Borei Priya 8, we thank God for the creation of the fruit of the tree. As we eat kinds of first fruits for this time of year, we give thanks to God. Rav Kook, the first Ashkenazic chief rabbi of the Israel, described trust in God as the soil in which all values of life blossom. And so the first is we have a big pit, but the second is we do small seeds. Why small? Because Judaism teaches us to draw hope from our collective ability to shape a better world through our everyday actions. That is when you look at a small little seed and you see that through just one little seed, what can be planted. Just as the old man that we are told planted for his children with no expectation or reward, we also seed hope in others with small, selfless actions. And so we take small seeds. What are those? Figs, strawberries, kiwis, pomegranates, bananas, to represent the small and important actions that we take every day. We have the big pit, but we also have the small seed. And it's those small seeds that can inspire hope. Next, we have something with a hard shell, like an almond. And in this Seder, we say, hope does not come easily to us. Sometimes the hardest task is most rewarding, as when you crack the hard shell of the almond to reveal what's under the hard shell. It's the tasty nut. In Israel, spring begins now, marked by the flowering of the almond tree, the shkediya, one of the most famous songs in Jewish life even today. Ashkediya porachat v'shemesh pazorachat. The almond tree is growing, the sun is shining, the birds are chirping from the rooftop. Tu b'shvat higia chag la'ilanot. Tu b'shvat higia chag la'ilanot. Tu b'shvat has arrived, the festival of the trees. And this Seder alternates back and forth from a cup of grape juice to the fruit and the nuts. A cup of grape juice to the fruit and the nuts. And it literally takes us through the 4 seasons and the different types of Shivat Minim, the seven species of the land of Israel. And finally, we get to the 4th cup. We say, as a Seder comes to a close, we prepare a drink of our last cup of grape juice. This one is all red. Red symbolizes the fullness of life. Red is the color of spring in Israel when the red poppies and red buttercups bloom. We have witnessed a gradual transformation, and that's important. Hope is a gradual transformation, from white to pink to red. We have learned that heroes change history and that we can work together to accomplish great things. Hope, like trees, start out in little packages and blossom if nurtured, just like human beings. And often we end the Tu B'Shvat Seder with Hatikva. A Seder. We do a Passover Seder, it's obvious. Some of us do a Rosh Hashanah Seder, but not many of us, and not enough of us, do a Tu B'Shvat Seder. And so this year, tomorrow night, Thursday, sometime this week, try it. Take those 4 cups of grape juice. Open up your refrigerator, find the fruits of the big pits, the little seeds, the hard shell to crack and the nuts. Tell the story through God's creation of nature, of our people, and put our people's narrative into the story of nature. And so, plant a tree, give your first fruit. Yes, we don't have the obligation to say the blessing, but go out if you have a tree in your backyard or in your front yard or in a potted plant in your house. Take it. Talk about what this fruit means, not just what it tastes like, but how we can have hope by looking at this fruit, by taking this fruit, and realizing that there will be a better tomorrow. A Chag Sameach, a happy Tu B'Shvat, and a Shabbat Shalom.